Hi, I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling-related things, all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. So this week, I'm going to do something I love, and I'm going to mark out on some wrestling championship belts. I'm a huge belt mark. I've done many videos just on wrestling championships. And this week, I'm going to rank from my least favorite to my absolute favorite WWE World Championships. Now, granted, I know that they usually just call it championship, but whatever. We know what it means. The criteria, though, I'm not including anything that was just a specialty belt, like the Smoking Skull Championship, the Rated R Championship, not including those. Yes, they were WWE Championships, but they were just for the one wrestler. Also, I'm only going to be including from when they were the WWF, not when they were the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Mainly because I didn't really like any of those championships. I mean, I kind of liked the big green belt, but I didn't love it. And I kind of liked the Bruno Sammartino belt, but again, it wasn't something I would say was great. Basically, from the time Vince McMahon had it until now. I will also be including both versions of the World Heavyweight Championship and the Universal Championships. I understand that some people are like, well, those technically weren't the WWE Championships, but they were the top prize at one point, so they're getting included. Which means I will be ranking 13 different belts. Let's start with the lowest. Number 13, the World Championship I hated the most was the spinner belt. I absolutely hated this big, gaudy, awful piece of garbage. Hated it. I remember when John Cena had the United States Championship and it was that spinner championship going like, God, that is terrible. Could he even make a championship that looks worse than that? And then he won the World Championship and surprised me. And I could not believe that this lasted so long. Like, honestly, when it first came out, I was like, well, at least it's just John Cena's championship. But no, it stayed. And according to John Cena, he wanted to change it because, in his opinion, the belt that was already there, the Undisputed Championship, was just too plain looking. That championship was gorgeous. Your championship was ugly. And as much as I respect John Cena, I hate him for bringing that belt in. And at number 12, the 1985 version of the WWF Championship. Technically the first WWF Championship, because before that it was the big green belt. Granted, this championship was only held by Hulk Hogan, but it makes the list because it was the championship. It wasn't his personal championship, it was the championship. It's basically the same design that they were using a lot back then. Like, they used it for the NWA Television Championship, they used it for the AWA Tag Team Championships, and a lot of people liked this design, but I didn't. The shape and everything, I always thought it was just very ugly looking. And in this case, for the belt itself to have like no color or whatsoever, probably the worst version of this championship was being WWE's championship. But there's still a nostalgic thing because it was the championship that was featured at WrestleMania, the first one. But I still didn't like it. And at number 11, the Scratch Logo Championship. I remember being excited for the rumors and announcements that they were going to be changing the spinner belts. And then I remember The Rock coming out, and he was about to debut the new championship, and I remember going like, yay. And then this came out, and I was like, well, it's a little bit better. But ultimately, this was a very ugly championship. I had nothing against the Scratch logo that had been around since the Attitude Era, but it didn't need to take up the entire championship. And honestly, I didn't think that this championship looked good on anybody. The only reason I liked it at all was because it replaced the spinner belt. In at number 10, the Universal Red. Again, this was just another time that it was disappointing. After the Scratch Logo Championship, they'd come out with the Network Logo Championship that was supposed to encompass both the WWE and World Heavyweight Championship that they had unified. And then they announced that they were splitting the brands again, that Raw was getting a new championship, the Universal Championship, and we were all excited because we were going to get a new title, and basically we got the exact same thing, but red. So it was disappointing. And honestly, just the red strap, in my opinion, did not work for this particular championship. Some people, I remember saying like, oh, well, you know, it's starting to grow on me. It never really grew on me at all. Especially because I've never been a big fan of the design. Which brings us to number 9, the Universal Blue Championship. Only difference between the two, obviously, being that one was red and one was blue, and then the little banner under the logo went from black to red again, but it just came down to I wasn't really crazy about either version, but the blue was a tiny bit better. Which now brings us to number 8, the Network Logo Championship. Again, it just came with disappointment. Like, honestly, I don't hate it. I just don't love it. And again, they had the Scratch Logo Championship, which I wasn't a fan of, that they unified with the World Heavyweight Championship. So they again had an undisputed championship that was going back and forth, and we were just sitting here waiting for them to give us one belt to encompass both championships. So I was excited. I was like, good, we're going to get something different. And we didn't. We got pretty much the exact same design as the Scratch Logo Championship, except with their new logo. The logo for the WWE Network that, at the time, was also somewhat new. It wasn't bad looking, it was just eh. Which now brings us to number 7, which is the current undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Which, as you notice, they're all basically the same look. From 11 to 7, they're all the same shape, same design, basically just different variations of the same championship. But I guess if I had to pick one that I think looks the best, it would be the current one they got. I kind of like the gold backing behind the logo versus it just being black or red or blue. And I like it better than the Scratch logo. Wouldn't say I love it, but I like it. But again, it was met with a little bit of disappointment because they had just given us a new World Heavyweight Championship. The WWE and Universal Championship had been unified for well over a year at that point. We were waiting for the new belt, and they gave us basically the same belt with a different color scheme. So really, for these ones, they're all basically just as bad, except for a little bit of color can make a difference. Number 6, the Attitude Championship. I did not like this belt when it first debuted with the blue strap. I didn't think that worked very well with it. When they put it to a black strap, I liked it a lot better. Liked it the most when it was a black strap with a blue backing. That added a nice touch. As far as when it first debuted, I wasn't happy about it because it replaced a championship I loved so much. I understood why, because they did have a world championship that was technically smaller than its tag team and its Intercontinental Championship. It had been around for a long time. It was time to update it. But still, when they replace one that you love so much, it doesn't matter how good the other one looks, it's not going to be as good. But as time went on, this one did grow on me. I did come to really like it. Not love it, but really like it. And it is one that I did accept as being a very nice, beautiful championship. But I still wouldn't say that it's even close to one of my favorites of the WWE Championships. But I will give it this. Definitely, when I see this belt, it takes me back. And at number 5, the current WWE World Heavyweight Championship. When it debuted, not that long ago, I was actually very happy about it. Because one, I was glad that if they were going to bring back the World Heavyweight Championship, I was glad that they didn't bring back the old one. As much as I love that one, it was time to update it. And I like the look of this one. And I will say this, as far as the jewels on the plate, could use a little bit of color, but ultimately it's a very nice looking championship. The championship itself looks way better than the big prestigious one, the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship that they have right now, which sadly is more prestigious despite the fact that it's never defended. Which brings us to number 4, the original World Heavyweight Championship. One of my favorite championships of all time. Very similar looking to the big gold belt. Only difference was it was a little curved, so it was a little more form-fitting. But otherwise, same basic design. Which some people now are starting to criticize that it was just that. It was so basic. You know what? Sometimes there is beauty in simplicity. I remember when they first brought this back, I was very excited about that. It was showing a real brand split. Not to mention, looks-wise, it was competitive with the one on the other brand. And then when they unified it with the Scratch logo belt, I was like, okay, hopefully they'll bring us something that looks similar to that. They didn't, but I always did love this championship. Number 3, the 1986 version of the WWF Championship. Again, it was a belt that only was held by Hulk Hogan, but again, it wasn't because it was his belt. It was just simply, that was the WWF Championship, and nobody had ever taken it from him before they made another championship. But I liked this belt. It's got a similar design to another one of my old favorites, the WCW Television Championship, but also very much its own, much more flashy than that one. And even though it's very old school, sometimes there's beauty in simplicity. In at number 2, the first WWE Undisputed Championship. From when they unified the WCW World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship, the Attitude Championship, when we finally got that new belt, we got this, and I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. It was stunning. I absolutely loved it. Which is why when they replaced it with that Spinner Championship, I was so devastated. They went from something that was extremely beautiful to something that was extremely gaudy. Honestly, I really wish they would have just let John Cena go throughout his reign, have his personal championship, and bring it back. This championship, in my opinion, didn't last as long as it should have, because it was only around a couple of years, versus that one being around for almost a decade. This one did not get its time in the sun, like it should have. Which brings me to my favorite WWF Championship of all time, which is actually my favorite championship of all time, the Winged Eagle Championship. Talked about it many times. Maybe it's partially nostalgia, because this was the WWE Championship when I first started really getting into wrestling. But you know what? I look at it and I'm like, you guys haven't come up with anything better than this. Ever. Okay, so it's not the biggest championship out there, but you know what? It's still the most beautiful. And it was one of those titles that, in my opinion, it looked good on everybody who wore it. Because I will say that about some of the other championships. Even the Undisputed Championship didn't look good on everybody who had it. This one did. And to me, that's one of the most important things about a belt, is that it looks good on everybody. This one looked good on everybody. There is yet to come a championship that I love more than the Winged Eagle belt. Which is why in my collection of replicas, the oldest one I currently own is the Winged Eagle Championship. So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications for when I post the videos, and leave a comment. Tell me if you agree with my list. Tell me if you disagree with my list. Tell me your favorite version of the WWE Championship. Tell me your favorite championship belt, period. Love you guys.